guys, it's Oluchi for Ways Breakfast. Thanks for always tuning in. Our research has shown that you're probably not subscribed to our channel. What are you waiting for? Make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you never miss out on our latest content and stay in the loop with all things Ways. If the channel grows, it means more great content for you guys. So hit that subscribe button now.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on Ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say. Press freedom in Nigeria has come under increasing threat, with journalists and activists facing arrest, harassment, and intimidation for speaking truth to power. As the world commemorates World Press Freedom Day on the 3rd of May, we are reminded of the need to protect those who inform, investigate, and speak out. The 2025 theme, Reporting in the Brave New World, the impact of artificial intelligence on press freedom and media, explores how AI is changing the way news is reported and shared, and why it's important to also protect press freedom in this new digital era. It's another beautiful week on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name remains Osayiwa Mesale, and today we're discussing press freedom in Nigeria, and we're asking why it matters to every citizen. And our guest, Daniel Ojukwu, he's an investigative journalist. I think he's the founder of Foundation for Investigative Journalists. He'll be joining me much later on the show to have this conversation. Okay, so remember, as always, Ways is all about you. You are the why in Ways. So be a part of the conversation every single day by adding your voice to the discussion. You can head on to our YouTube channel. It's at Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch us across all social media platforms, right? And when we open the phone lines, I'll really love to hear your thoughts on this topic. As always, let me please allow you to ponder on my quote for the day. It says, simple. It says, freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy. I don't know how else we can actually coin this, aptly put by Walter Cronkite, right? So we'll delve into the conversation around press freedom much later, but let me run off on a break. When I come back, I want to let you in on my news interest for the day. Stay with me. Hi, thanks for staying with us. 15 years on, PDP, Saraki remember Yaradua and hails reforms. So I think the People's Democratic Party and the former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, have paid tribute to the late former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. 15 years after his passing, PDP and Saraki hailed Yar'Adua's integrity, leadership, and unwavering commitment to national unity. In a message that was posted on X on Monday, the PDP, the party that gave Yar'Adua the platform to serve as Nigeria's president from 2007 until his death, while in office in 2010, described him as a leader of integrity, humility, and vision. The statement read, 15 years on, Nigeria still mourns one of its finest, and I still remember a friend whose quiet wisdom helped shape my understanding of service. Described as a president who led with calm strength and deep conviction, Yar'Adua's presidency was marked by quiet but meaningful reforms, particularly in areas of electoral transparency and conflict resolution in the oil-rich Niger Delta. His leadership style stood in contrast to the loud theatrics of politics, earning him respect across partisan lines. The party's message further read, his commitment to Nigeria's unity, electoral reforms, and peace in the Niger Delta remains an enduring legacy. I think more than ever before, at a time like this, it's important that, we intentionally, fight for our democracy in Nigeria. And when I say fight, I don't mean like going to fight on the streets or whatever. It is just we need to keep pushing and putting a lot of pressure on the government to do the right thing. As we all know, right, it seems like a lot of would I call them the attributes of democracy is slowly being eroded, So it's important that we continue to emphasize this, and little wonder why, this post came up, today, because it just seems like, nobody wants to care about the rule of law. Nobody wants to care about the role of different arms of government. Everybody just wants to do what it seems like, it's pleasing to them, and what favors them. And that's really sad for our democracy. You should be able to give people the opportunity to say, you know what, this is not going well for me. I want to choose differently and all of that. But that's not the case. What we're seeing today, it's just rubbing off wrongly that we're not respecting the rules of democracy. So, that's why somebody like Saraki would probably, do this remembrance post. So I'll move on to my next story. Atiku condemns arrest of very dark man, alleges abuse of power. Now, we all know what happened. It happened on Friday last week, where a very dark man had, gone to the bank, the GTB bank, somewhere in Abuja, to try to resolve some alleged, withdrawals that happened with his mom's account. And, from the reports, he was arrested. And, since then, we hadn't heard anything from them. The arrest, of course, afterwards, there has been a lot of outcry to the point that even today people said they were going en masse to GTB to go and withdraw their money. Some even also went to the EFCC office and all of that. At first I actually thought, are you sure it was EFCC that arrested him? Because nobody was saying anything. And that's, for me, that's just, it just rubs off wrongly. And this is what we're even talking about when we say, what's it called? Democracy. We're not in an autocratic government. We're in a democracy, for goodness sake. And, leadership should be transparent. So the arrest and the continued detention of social media influencer, outspoken critic Mr. Martins Vincent Ose, widely known as VDM, Very Dark Man, by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, is yet another blatant abuse of power. This is Atiku talking, by the Tinubu administration, which has made political repression a hallmark of its role, he said. Even more alarming is the fact that Mr. Ose remains in custody without any formal charges is a flagrant violation of his constitutional right and repression a hallmark of its role, he said. Even more alarming is the fact that Mr. Ose remains in custody without any formal charges is a flagrant violation. Loyalists with credible allegations of corruption walk free, trading sycophancy for immunity. So this is what we're saying. And this is from Atiku coming out to condemn, what's it called, the act. Everybody has, like, literally. And you know the beautiful thing about this thing that is happening, it's not even about the very dark man. Honestly speaking, it could be Uwa tomorrow. It could be anybody tomorrow. So I don't like the fact that, you know, there was no due process. It is okay if you want to arrest somebody. If you've done the crime, I mean, it is also their right as EFCC to go and say, you know what, we are calling you, you know, for questioning and all of that. And if you're found guilty, why not? You do the time, right? But you see, it is the manner to which EFCC and DSS and all of these our security operatives just, you know, do their thing. It's just very, very alarming because it means that no one is safe. You know, and I mean, I'm so happy about the topic today because this press freedom is a lot of things. I know how many times my parents will call me to please just be begging me that please just be careful. I even did a video. In this administration, they are not tolerant of anything criticism. They are not tolerant of it. So you have to be really careful so that you don't go and, you know, it's just unnecessary for me. I don't even understand the kind of stress to go through going into one place like a cell or something. Please, I can't even deal with it. Honestly speaking, as much as you can, just avoid it. And this is not you being a coward, but just avoid it. Because honestly, we don't even know where this VDM matter is coming from, because now EFCC said that there have been countless petitions against him, and that's why he's been arrested, that soon he will be charged, right? So we don't even know what the real situation is. You know, we don't even know what the real situation is. It's so sad. How can somebody arrest you? This one looked like an abduction. Remember what had happened with Dele Faratimi, right? It was because of the CCTV footage in his office that we were able to see the true picture of what had happened. So this one now, we don't even really know how this really transpired, because this video did not really give us a clear picture, right, of how it was, what's it called, how the arrest was done. But let's move on to the next story. I'll move on quickly. Over 1.5 million candidates scored below 200 in the 2025 UTME. This one gave me a headache because my son wrote this UTME. I've not checked his results yet. But let me say that, you know, remember I had complained about UTME, how some candidates, right, they had downtime. My son's classmate had a downtime of 1 hour. 1 hour, like his system shut down for 1 hour. They were struggling to resuscitate the system. Are we really ready for computer-based exams? Are we really ready for that? I don't think we're ready for that. But let me read the story, right? It says over 1.5 million out of the 1.955069 candidates. Imagine, this is a total, oh God, who sat for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Exam scored below 200 in the just concluded exam. This was revealed in the statistical analysis of the 2025 UTME results released by the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board on Monday. The statistics indicated that only 420,415 candidates scored above 200 in the 2025 edition of the UTME. The data also showed that 75% of the candidates, 75, no, this is wrong, scored below 200 in the exam, with less than 1% scoring above 300. This is really, really sad. Honestly, I don't even know what to say, right? In the statement accompanying the data, JAMB said 40,247 candidates, underage candidates, were permitted to demonstrate their exceptional abilities. However, 467 of these candidates, that's 1.16%, achieved scores that meet the threshold of exceptional abilities as defined for the UTME, with their performance in the subsequent 3 stages still pending. Of the total number of registered candidates, right, 97 candidates were involved in examination infraction, while 2,157 others are currently undergoing investigation for suspected malpractices. Additionally, 71,701 candidates were absent. Those facing biometric challenges are also under investigation, and those who are cleared will be rescheduled for examination at designated centers. JAM, I don't know. how important is this exam, honestly speaking? And why are we having to put this exam as a criteria to be able to go into Nigerian universities? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's a total sham. 75% failure rate, that is wrong. I mean, that is all shades of wrong. You know, we are not ready for computer-based exams in this country. We do not have the infrastructure or the facilities for that. So I don't know how else we can sink this into JAM, but please, by all means, I don't know who is going to help me let it sink into their, you know, into their subconscious. I don't know, because we are not ready for this. We are not. I don't even know what our result sheet will say. I will find out. I don't know what I will share, but I'll find out by the time his result is out. But honestly, I know there were too many complaints about this particular JAM exams. There were too many complaints. Let's go on a break. When we come back from the break, let's discuss press freedom. See you after the break.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
When journalists and activists are arrested for doing their job or sharing their opinion, it sends a message. Freedom of expression is under threat. Daniel Ojukwu was arrested after he wrote about an alleged misuse of over 147 million naira meant for school construction. Instead of investigating the claim, the focus turned to punishing the messenger. He was held without charge for over a week. Dele Farotimi, known for speaking out against injustice, was also arrested following the release of his book, Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. His work criticized deep flaws in the judiciary, right? And shortly after, he was picked up by, authorities, as I'd mentioned earlier. These arrests are not just about Ojukwu or Farotimi. They are about every Nigerian's right to know the truth. Press freedom means that journalists can report facts and hold people in power accountable without fear of arrest, violence, or threat. It's a key part of democracy because it ensures that citizens are informed, aware, and able to speak up when something is wrong. When press freedom is strong, corruption is harder to hide. When it's weak, abuse of power becomes easy and people suffer most. So joining me to shed more light is Daniel Ojukwu himself, the investigative journalist, Foundation for Investigative Journalism. Thank you so much. Becomes easy and people suffer most. So joining me to shed more light is Daniel Ojukwu himself, the investigative journalist, Foundation for Investigative Journalism. Thank you so much for joining me, Daniel.
Joy as enshrined as part of universal basic human rights. I mean, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom to ask questions, freedom to practice without fear or favor. That is what it is at its core. But over the years, we have found new ways to define it within the scope of peculiarities of different countries. So the press, the media, as it operates in several countries, define how people understand press freedom. So if you're practicing journalism in Norway, for example, where there's respect for human rights, there's respect for define how people understand press freedom. So if you're practicing journalism in Norway, for example, where there's respect for human rights, there's respect for that country, we compare. Meanwhile, it is not supposed to be so. We're supposed to have a situation where you either have press freedom or you don't. It's like every other human rights concept, rights to vote, rights to contest for election. It is either it is absolute or it is not. So when we talk about Nigeria's upgrade or decline in the ranking, it paints a picture of the press being tools that you can either impress, you can either tolerate, or you discard. So I just prefer to understand press freedom as an absolute thing. You either have it or you don't. And as it stands in Nigeria, we do not have it.
Why do you say that, though? Why do you say that we don't have it?
Well, the history speaks for itself, or you discard an issue from the government. When Punch decided administration as a the presidency's reaction was to kick Punch out of Asura and say, okay, since you're going to do that, you have no right cover the presidential villa any longer. So you're saying because the press has decided to refer to you as what you are, they should no longer have access to you. So every single administration, we get to see new levels of abuse of the press.
Yeah.
Till today, Balumi Onifade's family have no closure because their son's body hasn't been given to them, despite being killed 5 years ago in the line of duty. So these kinds of instances already point to the fact that the press isn't free in Nigeria.
So you know how when we talk about press freedom, right, the citizens feel like this thing is a journalist thing. It is for people that are working in the media, people like us in front of the TV and all of that, consign them, right? Because it's important for us to be able to expand the minds of people, to understand how this deeply affects everything, right? So if you had something to say to young people that say, this one no consign me, what would you say to them? Because again, look at what is going on. Apart from just even regular things like X and all of that, right now, even on your social media handle, whatever you say, you can be picked up based on what it is that you've said, right? So even if you're saying the truth, right, or you're speaking based on facts, it still doesn't shield you from if they decide to pick you up. So why is it important, and how does it affect every one of us if we keep being in this state where we are afraid to speak up? How does it affect us all as a people?
Okay, so the press is pretty much like politics. When people look at politics, they often see it as the business of politicians. They see it as something that concerns a few parties, a few individuals who are vying for power. And that's why we have a high level of apathy. Many people don't want to participate, but they fail to realize that every decision, every policy, every action, that every economic activity they partake in is a function of politics. And it's the same with the press. A country is as free as its press. We're in an age where anybody can be a pressman. Anybody, without any formal, you need no formal training. You need no certification. By merely putting out information that reaches a wide heterogeneous audience, you're a pressman. If you put out any claim, you find out because that's what journalism is. You gather information and you share it to the public, not just a few group of people within an enclosed environment. You're sharing to a large. So as long as you're disseminating information, you're participating in the journalistic process, which is why the government can use its cyberbullying, cyber stalking, cyber crimes act of 2015, the one that was revised in 2024, January, February actually. So that they use those laws to come after the common man to say, oh, you posted this on social media, it's defamation. You posted this, can you prove it? And they come after several people. When Dele Faratimi was picked up and taken to Ekiti, they used the Cyber Crimes Act on him. He's not a journalist, he's a publisher. He published a book. Several other people who talk on social media, they use the same laws to come after them. And say, recently, Idris Abdul Karim's song was taken off.
Yeah, it was banned.
Media. Yeah, it was banned. It said no TV station should play that song. Idris is not a journalist, but that is a form of silencing the press because that material he puts out is for public enjoyment. It's for public information. People are supposed to see that and supposed to mobilize them. They're supposed to see it and say, oh, yes, he's making sense. This is the message. What then do we do with this message? So if the government kills the press, it means that the people lose information. They lose verified information. Okay, they lose their voice.
Daniel, I'd like to ask this question. Given the fact that you have been arrested 3 times, right? Just to touch a bit on what is going on presently, there's a young man that has been very vocal about a lot of things. He talks about almost everything, you know. Recently, I think on Friday, he was picked up, very dark man, and he was picked up till now, you know. I just saw a report on Punch that said, you know, EFCC says he's with them and he has multiple, what's it called, what's the word I'm looking for now? Not charges, multiple petitions. Yes, thank you, that's the word. Multiple petitions against him, and he will be charged very soon. You have been picked up 3 times, right? I mean, when you look at the way security operatives work in Nigeria, is that even proper? Is that right? For you to pick up somebody without a warrant, without anything, when you were picked up, what was it like for you? Were you picked up just like that and, you know, and tortured and all of that without any charges, nothing, no, what's it called, no warrant for your arrest, no nothing?
Okay, your question is multifaceted. You're asking two or three
a
questions. Lot. let me pick it apart. First off, for Martin Zeltse's case, I have tried as much as possible to gather as much intel as I can on the matter before I make a conclusion. So far, as of now, I do not know the particulars of his case. And when I refer to the particulars, I mean the allegation against him is unclear. Cyberstalking is vague. Even our laws don't even recognize cyberstalking any longer. It used to exist, but there's nothing like that within the revision of the Cyber Crimes Act. You can have cyberbullying, you can have cybercrime, but it has to be insightful. It has to have an element of threatening public peace. So if that is what the EFCC is accusing him of, that his actions can actually affect the public, then what particular actions? Nobody knows. A lot of people have speculated GTB had a hand in it. We don't know. So as much of his case I do not know, I cannot say. But on the part of the EFCC's approach to his arrest, it is a problem with several agencies, several security outfits. They arrest before investigation. Arrest is supposed to happen on 2 grounds. First, you're arresting to charge the person. Immediately, you arrest the person, you go to court within 24 hours if the court is close by. If there's no court within the environment of that arrest, within the environment of the detention facility, you have a 48-hour grace to put that person before a judge. Now, on the second hand, you arrest if that person is a potential threat to the public or they're a flight risk. You say, oh yes, we need to arrest this person because we suspect that they may flee, and we have enough to build a case so we can argue before a judge that, yes, we want to obtain a remand warrant and keep this person in custody because of these concerns. But if that person is just going about their life and you don't have enough yet, you're not supposed to arrest. You receive your petition, you do your investigation. Because if every agency is saying that a petition is the motivating factor for arrest, does that mean that I can go write a petition against any politician Probably I write a petition against Senate President Akpabio and give the ESC. Then ESC say, because there is a petition, we go arrest the Senate President. No. You don't just say because there's a petition, you must arrest. No. The petition doesn't say this person killed somebody or this person has committed treason or terrorism, which you then say, oh, if we don't arrest this person, there's a potential for more damage.
Yeah.
So those are the things. Now, when I was picked up, because I was arrested twice and abducted the third time, in our organization, and generally speaking, amongst every journalist I know who does proper work, nobody fears an allegation. You have a petition, we tell you, invite us. If you invite us and say this person has made a claim, it is up to us to defend ourselves. It has always been like that. But what happened in my case was I was just picked up from the streets of Lagos, locked up for 2 days without knowing what the allegation was or whatever. And then when people got to find out, they moved me to Abuja and kept me for further more days. At the end of the day, total was about 10 days. I spent about 4 days in Lagos and then 6 in Abuja. And then the case just kept dragging. And now we kept saying, take us to court, because that's the normal procedure. If you have a case, we're not scared of going to court. Take us to court. And the police was grandstanding, saying that, yes, there are 15 petitions against you. And we said, we're here. Show us the 15 petitions. They couldn't produce one. So even if an outfit is saying that there's a petition, can they show that there's indeed a petition? Because they have shown that they have a pattern of lying. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it happens. That yes, sometimes they say, oh, there's this and that. And we've always challenged them. You say that this happened, show us. And then they said, oh, you have a case to answer. It's been 1 year now. I was picked up on May 1, released, I was let go on May 10, 2024. This is 1 year after, and the police never charged me.
Wow.
So it was waste of my time.
Wow. And you are not allowed to sue them?
Complete and utter waste of my time.
You are not allowed to sue them?
We are in court. We're in court, actually.
Okay.
We're in court.
Okay.
We challenge that abuse of human rights.
Okay. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with me. All right, thanks for staying tuned, though. If you just tuned in, we're having a conversation around press freedom in Nigeria, why it matters to every citizen. And, of course, we have Daniel Ojukwu with us. Please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Our phone lines are also now open. The number to call, 070-2500-7749 or 070-1424-2420. Let's hear what you have to say. All right, so... if journalists are afraid to speak up, right, what is the hope of the common man? Because at this point, right, it seems like journalists are, first of all, a lot of people feel like journalists are compromised in this country. Correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel. Because, you know, we've seen that story. I can't remember vividly now who was the person that, you know, talked about the brown envelope and exchange of hands and all of that. How it seems like journalists are kept perpetually poor so that they can continue to do the bidding of, you know, some of these powerful people. And they feel journalists are compromised in this country because they only report what they are told to report, not reporting the actual situation. First of all, how true is that? Do you agree with that summation? Or, you know, we still have, you know, some journalists, you know, a good number of them, you know, that cannot be compromised?
Oh, well, people have their opinions, and you can't begrudge people for their opinions. The truth remains that journalists are human beings. So every profession you look at, you're going to find good eggs, you're going to find bad eggs. And it is a service what journalists do. It's like what your average doctor would do. Your doctor would pursue his private practice, or he would pursue working for public goods, doing some missionary work, going to help those who cannot afford his services. So there are a lot of people who do what they want. It's still a job at the end of the day. So if a journalist wants to chase money, fine. It's his decision to make. If a journalist wants to chase social justice and fairness, it's his decision to make. If a journalist wants to chase fame, it's up to him. So people are chasing their own personal careers, and people have to understand this. But when it comes to ethical decisions now, a journalist who decides to color his reports because of the amount of money he gets and then tells a lie is a journalist I do not want to know, I do not want to associate with. It's ethically wrong, it's illegal. I mean, to publish falsehood because someone has told you they're going to pay you something, or it makes them look good. You're pretty much disinforming the public. And disinformation is a crime. It can incite the public, in fact. So by the end of the day, I believe that the journalists I know, the journalists I work with, the journalists in my circle are people who are dedicated to fixing the country, people who are dedicated to doing the right work, people who are dedicated to telling the right stories. Yes, funding is a problem in journalism. It has been a problem for as old as time, but it's not a problem that journalists do not know of before venturing into the profession. People who venture into this profession usually do so because they find it to be an avenue to create change, and later on they pivot to do something else, or they stay in it for as long as they can and make as much impact as they want to. So anybody who says, oh yes, journalists are compromised, maybe they have come across several journalists who have been compromised. So their experiences can be valid. You can't, take that away from them.
You have to, what's it called? Not invalidate their experiences. But I wanted to ask a question around, information, right? How do we go about information management as a people, right? Both as, because right now it seems like everybody can become a journalist, right? Especially with how much influence social media has, brought in terms of information dissemination. Before, you had to wait for a paper to come out to see what is going on. But now you just need to go on blogs, go on different people's hand, regular people are now able to just share information as they see it. And I think maybe that is one of the biggest problems that I feel like the government, they have, because it seems like, there's no hiding place for them, because somebody can literally just record something and upload it on, on any social media platform, and, it will just go viral and all of that. So how do we intentionally manage information, to the point where we are not also putting ourselves at risk? Because yes, there's a part of you want to tell the stories in the most factual format, right? But there's also, sometimes they say where your freedom stops, that's where somebody else's one is starting. Do you understand? So how do we intentionally look at certain kinds of information that we have, and we're responsible with it, knowing that, yes, this thing can, like you rightly said, some information can truly incite the public. How do we manage those kinds of information?
Oh, well, it's a two-way street. It's the responsibility of both the media and the consumers of the media content. The media has faced several challenges over the years. We've had newspapers that were told that, oh yeah, with the advent of new media, online and everything, you're going to face challenges, and they still survive. So now we're in the new media age where everybody is putting out information in real time. Journalists are competing with bloggers. But the truth is, people have to consciously decide to vet their information. They have to rely on trusted sources. It's like in other countries, you have our US, for example, you know where the Fox News leans towards. You know where CNN leans towards. So if you read a story published by CNN, for example, if you don't have that discernment, you might just see it as objective, completely objective. But if you have the discernment, you probably think, oh yes, there's a party that is probably favored. Maybe this narrative is skewed towards this party's favor. And then you go to Fox to read that same story, you're seeing an entirely different narrative. Or you probably never see it on Fox at all, simply because it doesn't match their own party's narratives, their own party's biases. So once you understand every media platform or most media platforms' biases, then you should independently be able to filter the information you're taking in. But at the same time, media organizations are battling with all these other entrants for speed. You know that other platforms will pick up a story and run with it immediately. They're not thinking of the ethical problems. They're not thinking of anything. They're just going to slap on.
They're not thinking of
allegedly
MBCs and their fines.
at all. They're just saying so as allegedly happened. This allegedly happened. But the media has to regularly vet. Oh, somebody brought this to my notice. If we put this out, is it important that the public knows this? The media is often judged by what it publishes, but people don't see all the things that don't get published. You might see a story and you start thinking, this is true. But despite it being true, it has no place in the public domain. It's not important to the public. This is someone's personal life. Yeah. We shouldn't be publishing this. But a blog is going to run with that story and say, hello, Twe. This happened, so and so. That person said this other person said this, that person said this. We don't have all the gist, but somebody fed us this narrative. And then you see everybody trending it, they're piecing things together and say, oh, even though this blog didn't mention names, we know who they're referring to, we know who this other person is, we know who that other person is. The media, the conventional media, would never publish stories like that. They're going to have to vet and say, okay, yes, if this is indeed true, let's verify from an inside source, let's ask official sources, let's do this, let's do that. So the media has that battle, and if sometimes the media might do work for 2 years, and then a foreign platform comes to tell a story, and people say, oh, Nigerian media hasn't done anything. Why is the foreigner telling us a story that we're supposed to have been telling ourselves? And you see a lot of journalists saying, but we've been talking about this for 2 years. You people don't read. You just go to the headlines, you trust the foreign media, you're not focusing on Nigerian stories. It's only when it goes viral in other countries, that's when you take it seriously down here. So you can't force people to read stories. People read headlines and run with it and say, oh yes, we read that headline, this is what must have happened. And then you even see people asking questions. What is in the story? When you can easily read the story or watch the news or get all the information you need. They just want things in bits and pieces. So the media can do its best to compete, but that competition has to be within ethical boundaries. You can't say because of these new entrants you want to break ethical codes. No, we're still guided by rules. Yeah.
Okay. So as we try to, because we are fast running out of time, right? What do you think the government should do, like in terms of how do they receive certain kinds of information? What's the best way the government or the best approach for a sane government to manage, the people and the kind of information that the people are disseminating about them? Because most times what I see is just so many reactions, right? The government doesn't seem to be proactive. They don't seem to want to even sit down to analyze or reason and look at these things critically and maybe call for somewhat a dialogue. So that's why you see cases of abduction, cases of just arrest, without no grounds. So what would you say that if we had a sane government, how should a government approach be, towards information? Be it fact, be it not fact, right? How should they approach those kinds of information?
Okay, well, good enough. I studied mass communication and not just journalism. And I understand well enough that the government's biggest problem is its lack of experience in public relations. And it's not just this administration, it's every administration, almost every state government, almost every president who has led the country has had that problem. They just hire spokesmen and they start defending everything. You can't win if you're always on the defensive. You can't convince anybody. You can't ensure trust if the only thing you do is defend. Now, public relations is supposed to be honest. It's supposed to be transparent. It's supposed to be a two-way street. You're supposed to entertain criticism and look for ways, because if you're able to accept your wrongs, if you're able to take on criticism, then people are more inclined to trust the things you say and cooperate with you. Now, we have an FOI Act that has been around for years, 2011, thereabout. And the government doesn't respect its own laws. You write to the government and say, show us your books, give us records on this. And you can't see up to 20% cooperation. People are not responding to FOIs, they're not giving you information. If the government is serious about reforms and transparency, then they're supposed to hammer on the FOI Act and say, if you're not respecting the FOI Act, then you're not fit to be in government. But we just run with that, and people just don't want to respond, and they just ignore you. And then you ask the government, please respond to this, and they don't. And then when your story comes out, when you say, oh yes, we found this, we found that, we found corruption here, we found corruption there, the next thing they tell you is, oh, you're lying, you're playing politics, you're sponsored by the opposition. But if you go on the internet now and search for comments made by the ICPC chairman, comments made by the ESC chairman, you're going to see them tell you that corruption exists in MDAs because of poor, what they call this thing now, poor laws that govern I'm trying to remember this, poor procurement laws. They say that that's why there's corruption. ICPC will tell you the same thing. ESC will tell you the same thing, that there's corruption across MDAs. But if you ask them, how many MDAs have you prosecuted in the past year? You most likely hear 1, 2, 0. So you're telling us that there's corruption. But if the MBS comes out to push out corruption data, you shut down their website. If journalists tell you that there's corruption, you're attacking the journalists. If the African Development Bank is telling you that the economy is bad, you're saying, oh, you're being political about it.
Yeah.
But if the government was intent on investing in its PR and being honest with the people, because PR is not just going about lying, you're supposed to say, okay, yes, the economy is bad. We recognize it, and we are going to fix it. If you have zero tolerance for corruption, and someone tells you that there's corruption, your first step shouldn't be to say, oh, this is false. You're supposed to say, EFCC, ICPC, investigate this that this person has published, and then give us a conclusion within this framework. If the EFCC says these people lied, you can come to the public and say, we've gone through this process, this person lied. If the people are still not willing to retract or whatever, you're supposed to then say, let us go to a court so that a court can settle it. That's how transparency works. You don't take a hammer approach to damage things whenever someone comes at you. You can't run a government and be 100% right all the time. It's impossible. So the best way to collaborate with the media is to recognize that the media wants fairness. The media wants transparency. The media is not even asking for absolute freedom in the sense that whenever the media is wrong, you should let them go. They should get away with everything. No. The media is saying respect the rights and go through the right channel. You have a grievance. Let the rights agency investigate. And then if your case is solid, go to court.
Absolutely.
But don't abduct people. Don't chase people. Go through the right channels. That's what the government should do. We don't need more laws. We don't need more regulations. No. Just be honest with the people. If you don't want people to report corruption, report terrorism, report incidences like this, then it means clearly that you have zero interest in fighting corruption. That's just it. It's black and white.
Wow. Daniel, if you had one final thing to say as we wrap up the conversation, what would you say, and who would you direct it to? Or would I say to the people, to the civil society groups, and to the government? What would you say to those three sets of people?
Well, I have just one message I would ever say to the government, and it is that the people are not tired. It's that simple. The people are not tired. That's the only thing I'll tell the government. Civil society groups are doing their thing. They would act according to whatever mandate they're pursuing at that particular point in time. So it's never static. But generally, to the Nigerian people, they're always overwhelmed. And I say this from a sociology perspective. I'm a huge fan of the study of information overload. I refer to it as the narcotization effect. We take on a lot. Today we hear Natasha Akpoti's case with the Senate president. Tomorrow we're hearing VDM. The next day we're hearing the president. Tinubu administration has done something. Before you know, by noon, you're hearing that one governor somewhere is building a mosque with state funds. You hear that this House of Reps speaker is donating 22 vehicles to traditional rulers in Kaduna. You hear that power is going up. So it's hard to focus on one thing because there's information overload. You're just overwhelmed. You don't even know which one to pick. If you're picking one, your neighbor has another one that's defeating him. Unlike several other countries where you just have one major thing dominating the headlines, or maybe maximum 5. Here you could have like 14 things dominating at the same time. But from the way I approach several things, I used to, till now, I like, private. I like to have a private life, do my work, and just stay quiet. But because of the events of last year, I've been more vocal. And I try to let people know that no matter what, the government needs legitimacy. The government needs the people, and the people are supposed to understand the power they have. They're supposed to demand change. We don't practice on vibes. A lot of people come and say, oh, how do you survive? How do you do the work you do despite all the threats? No, we don't practice recklessly. When the press speaks to people, when the press backs the people, they're backing the people from a place of information. The press is informed beyond the level they inform the public. So we receive international training, we receive local training, we practiced for years and years doing the same thing. So if the press is committed to telling the stories of the average man, I believe that anybody who is willing to weaponize this information for good, that is, you see the information, you dwell on it, you use it to make informed decisions, you use it to participate in politics, in policy making, in self-determination, then we would be better for it. But if we keep having cases of people shying away because they don't want to be victims, we all already are victims. But then we just have to accept that we can't afford to be tired. Absolutely. I know we're not tired, we just need a push. We just need that spark. We'll get there.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for your time this evening, and continue to do the best you can, and keep up the good work. It's not easy, but we know we'll definitely get there. We're not going to be tired of talking. All right, so the arrest of our guest, Daniel Ojukwu, and, he said 2 arrests and 1 abduction, and the abduction of Dele Faratimi are reminders that Nigeria still has a long way to go in protecting press freedom. As we mark World Press Freedom Day, let's remember that freedom of the press is not just a journalist fight. It is everyone's fight. A free press is the backbone of a free society. It's simple. Every citizen has a role to play in defending it, because without the truth, there can be no justice. Thank you again to our guest, Daniel Ojukwu, for joining me tonight. And again, thank you for watching. Now, before I go, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channels at Official Upgrade TV. Follow us across all social media handles, and please engage our post. Now, if you missed our quote for the day, says, freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. live. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.